David said in Psalm 73, I was becoming envious. My foot almost slipped when I considered the wicked, how they seem to be having it easy, how they seem to be prospering. Things seem to be going for well in Moab. Things seem to be looking up for them. I almost slipped. I was getting discouraged until I entered the house of the Lord, and I understood that God has placed them on slippery ground. Their end is destruction. But God will guide me. And after it is all said and done, He will receive me to glory. I'll speak to you is figuring out how you can go for greener pastures in Moab. Maybe you're in a crisis, your family is in distress. You're figuring out how you can find greener pastures elsewhere, and in so doing compromise your faith and put yourself out of God's will and plan and purpose for your life. I salute his commitment, his sense of responsibility as a husband and as a family man. But his undoing was to move out of expedience, to move out of the house of bread into another country where his mind and his logic led him to. There may be scarcity sometimes in the house of God. In this land of Moab, disaster struck. In 10 short years, Elimelech himself died in Moab. Soon after, his son Mahlon and Chilion also died in the land of Moab. The family is plagued into a terrible crisis. When they left the house of bread, they thought they were empty. In Bethlehem, there was no bread. The house of God did not have bread. They went to fend from themselves outside the will of God, outside the plan of God, to take care of themselves. They thought they were empty in Bethlehem. They got a new definition of the name empty in Moab. She said in reflecting, I left Bethlehem full, and I am going back empty. She knew a new definition of emptiness. Don't despise the mercies of God in Bethlehem. In Bethlehem, there is provision. There may be difficulty. There may be hardship. But in the house of God, there is provision. There is the mercies of God, even in time of need. She was confronted with the real meaning of the word empty. Don't call me pleasant. Her name Naomi means pleasant. Don't call me pleasant. God has dealt with me in a bitter way. God has stand against me. Don't celebrate my homecoming. It is a disaster. I am a horrible person. I have gone through pain. I have blundered. I have made horrible mistakes. I left here full. I'm coming back empty. They left thinking there's nothing good in the house of God. They left thinking the house of God had nothing to offer. They thought the house of bread is plagued with scarcity. Let's go and figure out. Let's be proactive. Let's be pragmatic. Let's be active. Let's figure out what to do. I left here full. I am coming home empty. Don't call me pleasant. Don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara, for the Lord has been dealt with me in a bitter way. You see, my brothers and sisters, though there may be seasons, lean seasons in the house of God, though there may be times of famine when even the righteous are being tested, God will always visit his house. Hallelujah. God will always visit his people. While in Moab, she heard that God had visited Bethlehem. God had visited his house. And she made up her mind to go back to the house of God. Don't compromise to earn a salary increase. Don't compromise. Don't go to the greener pastures outside the will and the realm of God's favor. You will play yourself into disaster and into catastrophe. God will visit you even in difficult seasons. In lean seasons, God will always visit his people. She heard God had visited Bethlehem. The house of bread was living up to its reputation. Indeed, there is plenty in the house of God. And from archaeological studies, Bethlehem was on a very fertile crescent, just a few kilometers southeast of Jerusalem. Beautiful place. And Bethlehem, by the way, turns out to be the birthplace of Jesus. Jesus, the real bread of life. This is not a coincidence by God's divine design. They choose to go back to that promised land, the land where Yahweh is king. My God is king. I know I am speaking to people I sense who have made mistakes. We have given you a beautiful and a colorful definition of what family looks like. But you're there, you're saying, I don't even know what to call mine. Is it a family? How do we constitute this? Naomi was in such a situation. Don't call me pleasant. Don't call me Naomi. I am in a bitter situation. I am a woman who have known anguish. What kind of family is this now? 3 widows. The mother lost the husband, lost her 2 sons. She's now left with 2 foreign daughters-in-law. Does she abandon them in Moab and proceed back to Bethlehem? What do you call that kind of a family? There are people here saying, I don't even understand. Pastor, I've made some mess, I've made some mistakes, and I'm in a pit, I'm in a situation where I don't understand. I want to share with you 2 things quickly that can help you before we open this place for us to be able to have an encounter with the Lord. There are 2 things that she did that helped her to be able to turn around her situation. The first thing she did was actually to turn back home. She turned back home. She heard that God had visited the house of bread. There was plenty of barley. There was plenty of wheat in Bethlehem. She made up her mind that she will go back to her motherland. She will go back to the land of the promise, the land where Yahweh is king, where Yahweh is supposed to rule and to reign. She said, enough is enough. Let me go back perhaps and die in the promised land, die among my relatives. I don't want a homecoming party. There's nothing to celebrate about life. I want nobody from no villager. I just want to show up in Bethlehem that I may quietly retire and rest among my forefathers. She made up her mind to go back. What she didn't know, she was going back to the grace of God. She was going back to the place of promise. She was going back to the house of bread. And as she got there, things happened in quick succession. Before she knew it, she was an esteemed grandmother in the land of the house of bread. She made up her mind to turn back home. I challenge you as wandered away from the will of God, for you to be able to experience redemption, for you to be able to turn your marriage situation around. You need to come up with make up your mind and turn back to God and go back home. Go back to where you dropped the ball. Go and seek the face of God.